This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It is Wednesday. We got a good show for you all today. We're going to talk, of course, about the coronavirus stimulus bill. Yes, very important stuff, as of course millions of people right now are facing, like, literally on the edge of poverty right now. Mitch McConnell's got a new bill. And so we're going to see if that's any good. Spoiler alert. It's not. So I'm going to go through the details. I'm going to talk about this. There's that. We have, of course, the clown coup continues. Now you have prominent Republicans that are saying, you know, why don't we just take over? Why don't we just get the military, declare martial law, and let's just take over already? Okay, well, there you go. That's what's happening as well. We have an investigation by the Department of Justice with in regards to pardons. Fascinating. We also have Donald Trump threatening to blow up the internet as we know it because he has thin skin. And Betsy DeVos thinks free college, is a socialist takeover. So a lot of fun stuff on this show today. So if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. If you haven't already, thank you to those who are on both Twitch chat and on YouTube. I see you all. You are all wonderful. Thank you for joining me for the next, going to be roughly an hour, give or take. Normally we go for about an hour, sometimes a little bit more. Depends on the stories, depends on what happens. So we'll do that. And why don't we get into it here? Let's start out with Mitch McConnell. And the brand new proposal on coronavirus stimulus. So this should be good. Or not. Okay. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has released a new plan to combat the economic insecurity of Americans as coronavirus continues to, the cases continue to rise. And coronavirus continues to worsen across the United States. Just kidding. He's propping up corporations. So let me, by the way, let me just say that he is doing this in the guise of coronavirus relief. So he's like, oh, it is going to be very targeted coronavirus relief. Targeted towards whom? Corporations. So let me break it down. For one, this bill doesn't really authorize any new additional spending. From what I can see, they're basically using some of the money that was left over from the CARES Act. And so this is money that has been appropriated but has not been spent yet. There's some of it, of course, from lending facilities, and it totals around $500 billion.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
So just like in line with the rest of the skinny bill. So of the spending that is actually done, you're not going to be surprised that most of it goes to business in the form of Paycheck Protection Program loans. So now it also expands things the employers can have forgiven under these loans. It gives grants to venues and theaters, which are struggling, to be fair, under the coronavirus, because people don't want to go to theaters and things like that. It does give $10 billion to the post office. It's under certain conditions, of course. It's about the same as the recently touted bipartisan bill that was about $908 billion that I talked about before. So it also gives about $31 billion for vaccines. That includes, of course, continued research and development, as well as being able to transport and basically, get those vaccines out to the people, essentially. It adds a $20 billion farm bailout, a $500 million fishery bailout, $5 billion for childcare so that parents, of course, can go back to work. All right. And, and the big part of this is corporate liability. Because, of course. So now under the corporate liability provisions, you cannot sue your employer if you get COVID-19 from, for example, unsafe working conditions. In places like meat packing plants, for example, where managers were actually literally found at a Tyson plant making bets on how many people would get infected at a in their specific plant. So now you're wondering, of course, okay, what about stimulus checks? Does this version have stimulus checks? Well, the answer is, of course, no. What about unemployment? Also, not really. So let me get into the details on that. According to this piece of legislation, the proposal, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program would be extended by a month, ending on January 31st, 2021. So that's not additional federal benefits. That's just extended benefits. Now, it also addresses the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program for people who have exhausted their 13-week benefits. It is also extended by a month to January 31st, 2021. There are no additional federal benefits that have been listed. But wait, there's good news. There's some good stuff here. This bill would double the tax credit for charitable giving to $600 per individual. That's doubling. And $1,200 for a couple, and would allow a 100% write-off for business meals at restaurants. Yeah. There it is. I mean, that's basically it. That's what's in it. That's your coronavirus stimulus bill from Mitch McConnell. Let me tell you what. He does not give a fuck about you. If you are a regular person, if you are struggling right now and you need a stimulus pay, if you are behind on your bills because you lost your job as a result of coronavirus and you spent that stimulus check or you did, in a lot of cases, you didn't even get a stimulus check. Well, I mean, you're out of luck. Sorry. Sad. It's just a slap in the face. There, again, no stimulus, not actual stimulus. You can't even call it that. It's just corporate giveaways and a way to try to get people back to work. So again, they're pushing people. They're, of course, part of this bill also deals with education, a little bit of education funding to try to get people to set up ways where you can, quote unquote, go safely back to school. But right now, with the cases surging so much, there really isn't much of a safe way to go back to school at this point. And so, and of course, the liability protections also apply to school, as well as workplaces, corporations, small and large, meatpacking plants, some government offices as well. And so this liability protection, that's it. Liability protection for corporations, all that stuff, and we shove you back to work. But hey, at least we give you a little bit of childcare, and rich people can write off their business meals. Yay! Awesome. Some Dickensian shit right here. That's what this is. It's almost like it's a punishment for not voting for Donald Trump. Like, this is Mitch McConnell. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give you the shittiest stimulus bill that I can, and I'm gonna call it stimulus. And what it's really gonna do is that it's not gonna do anything to help people who are poor or struggling, and so it's gonna sabotage the economy. So that when coronavirus is over, there will be absolutely no recovery. In fact, we will slide deeper into recession or perhaps even depression. And so that whatever Republican decides to run in 2024, be it Tom Cotton or Ted Cruz or whatever, Don Jr., I've seen polls on that. Well, they're going to look at that. Republicans are going to look at the state of the economy that they essentially caused by not actually supporting people to get out of this economic recession. Look at Joe Biden's economy. How terrible. Look, Democrats can't run anything. Vote for us. Put us in power. And then, of course, if that happens to work, well, what they're going to do is basically what they did during the Trump administration, give giant tax cuts to the rich, deregulate industry, and then, when the Democrats inevitably go into power after the second gigantic market crash, which is going to happen, in depression, Democrats will be forced to do austerity. It's a lose-lose situation if you're a regular person. If you were a normal human being and you rely on this money to survive and to pay your bills, sad day for you. You're not going to get anything. You get nothing. And so make no mistake, this is actually the best we're going to get out of somebody like Mitch McConnell, by the way. He's even making, remember, yesterday I talked about the bipartisan trash bill, right? And I called it the bipartisan trash bill because it was garbage. Well, looking at that, that's actually better than this. That $908 billion bipartisan bill, looks great compared to this because it actually does give an additional $300 in unemployment benefits, plus it funds the states. This does not even fund the states at all. And so it makes that look good. And that is really, really shitty. And it just shows you that the government and really Republicans, people who are in power, they don't give a goddamn about you. Unless, of course, you're the one who signs their donor checks and you're a big multinational corporation. And that's essentially who Mitch McConnell actually cares about. Slap in the face. All right. So let's go to the clown coup. Because, of course, right? Unhinged conservatives who are angry at the election results are now calling on President Trump to just take the country by force. Now, this follows, of course, the certification of election results in key states, all of the key states that were, integral to whoever would win the White House: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona. Did I mention Pennsylvania? All of those already certified. Michigan, another one, for Joe Biden. And so Biden legitimately won all those states. There's no evidence of the massive voter fraud in those areas that has been alleged. We've had court cases, numerous court cases over this. No evidence. And of course, that means it didn't happen. This was a fair election. Even William Barr, who was a Donald Trump lackey, was forced to admit that the Department of Justice had found absolutely no evidence of widespread voter fraud. None. But that is not stopping Republicans from now pushing for a literal fascist takeover. Starting with, of course, martial law. So now it's funny because Republicans generally project, okay? They commonly accuse the Democrats of wanting to control their lives, and be able to, tell them what to do, when to eat, when to sleep, when to do whatever, okay, just to control their lives, which that's insane. I don't want to control anybody's life. And I also don't want religious conservatives controlling mine. And so, again, that's projection, right? But they're also like, oh, the Democrats, they're going to take over Texas with, remember Jade Helm? I think this was back in like 2014. Ted Cruz is like, the UN's going to put everybody in Hobbit homes, and Jade Helm is going to do a government takeover of Texas. Obama's going to literally take over Texas, which is part of the United States. He's going to use the military who was doing training there to take over the government of Texas. Just complete insanity coming from the right wing. And so they continue to, just say these crazy things and do projection. And now they're actually literally talking about this. So now they also call Democrats Nazis while they have literal Nazis on their side. And people that are like, yeah, straight up white supremacists, Nazis. So now let me give an example of what I mean. That who is calling for a takeover, essentially. This is an Ohio Republican and Tea Party leader, Tom Zawitowski. So now he took out a full-page ad in the Washington Times to promote a call for the president to, quote-unquote, suspend the Constitution. Now he says, oh, I want to suspend the Constitution so I can protect the Constitution. Well, that just does not compute, okay? But here's what he said. Well, it is our exclusive right to elect our president, and that sacred right has been infringed by the massive planned illegal election fraud, of which you have no proof of, by corrupt Democrat Socialist Party operatives across our nation to steal our vote, of which you have, no evidence of. Now, he is head of the right-wing We the People convention that took out the ad. But again, as I just showed you, as I've been talking about in show after show after show, that if they had evidence, why have they not presented it in court? Why did they take 39 different challenges to court? Or I should say, why did they, go to court 39 different times and present no evidence? That doesn't make any sense. No, we're losing so that eventually we can win. Where's the eventually? Where's the eventually? No, you lost because you have no evidence. You have no evidence. And so it's basically, you're just talking about conspiracy theories that you can't prove. And now, unfortunately, they're trying to use those conspiracy theories in order to try to steal an election. And it's not just this person, okay? You also have General Michael Flynn. So now General Michael Flynn was recently pardoned by President Donald Trump for lying to the FBI, okay, while he was serving as national security advisor. He tweeted out a link to the We the People convention, as did, of course, pro-Trump lawyers Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell. The Kraken. You also have Trump lawyer Joe DeGenova, who recently went on Howard Carr's radio show to say this, quote, anybody who thinks the election went well, like that idiot Krebs, who used to be the head of cybersecurity, which, by the way, there's been threats now against Krebs' life. Quote, that guy is a Class A moron. He should be drawn and quartered, taken out at dawn, and shot. So that's what they're talking about. They're openly talking about killing people. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. All right. DeGenova also went on to tell Carr, quote, we're trying to influence the jury, and that includes judges and state legislatures. All these governors in these states are a bunch of losers, along with their secretaries of state. I've never seen such wimps wearing an R. They're going to have to deal with that politically. That's the only way you deal with these people. Well, at least he said politically there. But you have Lynn Wood, who also tweeted this. Good morning. Our country is headed to civil war, a war created by third-party bad actors for their benefit, not we the people. And then added that communist China is leading the nefarious efforts to take away our freedom. Of course they have to bring in China, right? Oh, it's China. And then she adds, Donald Trump should declare martial law. And there have been other calls to declare martial law and redo the election. That's what the "we the people" thing is talking about. Unhinged, insane, authoritarian. Those are just a couple of the things that I can use to describe this. Okay, and again, the thing is, we have had recounts. Donald Trump, of course, has been free to launch challenges in the states where he was close. Again, that's something that he's able to do, and they're able to do recounts in things that are close. In fact, some of the recounts have embarrassingly led to Donald Trump losing by more, them finding more votes for Joe Biden. And so you had lawsuit after lawsuit, challenge after challenge. You even had investigations into voter fraud by the Department of Justice. You had I think 2 different investigations. You had the Voter Fraud Commission, which again didn't find anything, to prove that there is massive voter fraud, both in 2016, which they alleged that 3 million people voted for Hillary Clinton that were undocumented or illegal, and so those votes shouldn't count, which happens to be about the margin that she won the popular vote, even though she did lose the Electoral College. They still bitched about it. They still complained about this. But still, here we are. It's not enough. It's never enough. They have no evidence to prove the things that they are claiming. And so generally when you have extraordinary claims, i.e. massive voter fraud to the tune of over 7 million votes, by the way, and in key states, they should at least be able to prove that stuff. But they don't. They don't. And yet they're going to continue saying these unhinged things. And understand that this is really sort of a mask-off moment for the country. We see exactly who these people are now and what they believe. I believe that they're authoritarians to the core. A lot of these conservatives, they're not pro-freedom, they're anti-freedom. They're authoritarians, they're fascist, and some of them want to force their way into staying into power. Now, I hope that this does not happen. Obviously, look, people like Michael Flynn, pretty close to the president. For him to be retweeting stuff like this, that's going to get to the president's ear. I wonder if then, people already, I think OAN, the fringe networks, Newsmax, they're starting to probably talk about this. And I wonder how long it trickles down to maybe a Fox host. I don't know who would say it, whether it be Hannity or Tucker Carlson or whatever, saying, oh, that's it. We need to suspend the Constitution so we can do a do-over for the election just to make sure that it's secure. I don't know who's going to go, but if that does happen, expect Donald Trump to be calling for it. And that, of course, is incredibly damaging, is incredibly dangerous, and would tear the entire country apart. Again, I hope it doesn't happen. Worst case scenario. But I guess the clown coup is far from over. And that's unfortunate for all of us. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I'm going to, read some comments, super chats if we have any, things like that. And I will be back. We're going to do the bribery for pardon scheme. I'm going to explain what's going on there. We've got Donald Trump trying to blow up the internet, and Betsy DeVos coming up next. So stay right here around the nation.
It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
There's some whores in this house.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation. Jeff here with you. So first, I want to give a shout out to some patrons and channel members for the show. So first, let's go over to patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. I want to thank Barrett Howard and Leslie Deans. So, I'm sorry, Barrett Howard Harris and Leslie Deans. Thank you for joining and supporting independent progressive media. Of course, you can join and become a member as well. So, that said, let's go over here to channel memberships. And I want to thank Louis Winecki and Sarah Jolly. So, thank you for signing up to support independent progressive media. You can become a member by hitting the join button below on YouTube. And of course, you can support us on Twitch as well by subscribing. That helps us out as well. And, you know, bits, cheers, all that wonderful stuff as well. So, the Uber Gardener over on Twitch says, did I see the insane Linwood Sidney Powell press rally? Insanity. I did not get to watch that. But I imagine that it was hilariously stupid. So I might have to go and watch the video on that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Also adds, rigged election due to Venezuela. Well, was it Venezuela or was it China? They can't keep their story straight, can they? Nope. Nope, they never can. So thank you for that. Let's see. Some people, again, didn't get their stimulus checks. One person at Twitch says, no stimulus check because of child support. So, wow. That's crazy. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of people did not get their stimulus checks. And $1,200 was certainly not enough to begin with. But to get nothing during this unprecedented crisis is just horrible. Absolutely horrible. And we're the only country that just doesn't give a shit about the people. It was the ghost of Hugo Chavez. Yes, the ghost of Hugo Chavez, Dango. Exactly. You know how he's got to get involved in American elections and then, you know, go for the most right-wing corporate Democrat, Joe Biden. I guess I wouldn't say the most right-wing. Bloomberg was pretty bad. Oof. Thanks to Ben Dixon, though, for taking him down. Oligarch Slayer. All right, anyway. GOP has had second stimulus desk on their desk for 30 days. Oh, they've had it since May. I mean, if you're talking about the one that was passed by the House, they passed one back in May. Like, I believe it was the HEROES Act. And Mitch McConnell's just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do anything about that. Like, stimulus? Oh yeah, that's real nice. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me just file that in my circular file over here, House Democrats. No, we're gonna go and basically create the worst stimulus measure ever. And that's what it is. And again, what sucks is that this is where the Republicans are coming from, right? And then you got the quote unquote bipartisan, which is, you know, awful as well. And then you even look at the Democrats with the HEROES Act, and even that's not great. That's not even what we need. Okay, and it's just like, you know, the HEROES Act was another round of stimulus checks to the same people who got them before. So again, you're going to leave a lot of people out of the process. It does continue the $600 a month unemployment. There's, again, lots of corporate giveaways, but there's money for the states and localities. And, you know, even Pelosi's like, look, we started at what, 2.8 trillion? Okay, we'll go down to 2.2. All right. So immediately they go over to Republicans, and still the so-called compromise bill, bipartisan, is way, way more towards the Republican position than to Pelosi's position. It's absolutely ridiculous how far right everything is. As I said before, what we need is a $2,000 a month UBI. That's for $2,000 a person every month until this is over. Retroactive, because a lot of people got bills to pay. A lot of people got bills to. Oh, did they bring it down from 600 to 300 in the HEROES Act? Oh, the compromise. Right. To try to get closer to the conservative position. God, it's ridiculous. We're not even doing rent and moratoriums. I mean, again, the bipartisan bill at least allocated some money towards, relief, rent relief, right? McConnell's bill doesn't do any of that at all. And so right now you have a situation where 20 million people are going to lose their homes. And then you've got millions more who can't afford their utility bills. I mean, we are at the verge of a massive, massive crash. And Republicans are like, yes, let's have the crash. If we don't get the country, if we don't get to stay in power, well, then we're just going to burn the country down. This is what we have as a second political party in this country. And Jessica Bergen says, general strike. One of the stories that I considered doing, even though it's a few days old, was a massive general strike in India. 250 million people decided to go after and strike, do a general strike against the Modi government for, doing austerity measures. And so you've got France. France is a little bit different because they were going against another piece of legislation. But nonetheless, if somebody did try to cut, their benefits or anything like that, or reduce their healthcare, the French are out in the streets. And this time, now the Indians were out in the streets. So it's just, this is what we have. Breaks $300 a week is $7.50 an hour, which is just a quarter over the federal minimum wage. In America, we don't care about people. We brutalize our own citizens. The government does, and the right wing does, which unfortunately both parties are right wing. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's go to the next story here. Pardons. We got some pardons. People paying for pardons. The Department of Justice is now investigating a possible scheme involving paying a bribe for a presidential pardon. So it's actually broken into two different cases, but they're both related. So right now, the investigation is heavily redacted. We don't know who is under investigation or who the pardon is for. Nonetheless, I think it's pretty interesting because here we have an investigation into people lobbying the president for a presidential pardon in exchange for cash. So now the federal court order signed by Chief Judge Beryl Howell in Washington, D.C. and dated on August 28th shows a review of government requests to access certain communications believed to document a secret lobbying scheme and a related bribery for pardon scheme. So first they were going to lobby for the release of a specific individual and then, of course, pay them. Oh, great. Wow. The filing says a government filter team was sorting through more than 50 digital devices, such as an iPhone or a laptop, as part of an investigation when they came across emails pointing to two alleged schemes, according to the Associated Press. The secret lobbying scheme, the document says, allegedly involves two individuals whose names are redacted as part of an investigation when they who lobbied senior White House officials to try to secure clemency for a third individual whose name happens to be blacked out. Again, all of this stuff is just, we don't know names, and it's driving me crazy because I want to know who it is. So, all right, anyway. Now, the related bribery conspiracy allegedly involved the offer of a substantial political contribution in exchange for a presidential pardon or reprieve of a sentence for an individual who, again, we don't know. So now it makes me wonder, who exactly is in line for pardons right now? I mean, now is the time. Donald Trump's lame duck president. He doesn't have much longer in office. Much to his contrary to his protestations on Twitter, where I won the election. There's going to be a second Donald Trump term. There's not. There's not. There's no way that he's not going to be here past January 20th. I mean, whether or not they have to drag him out, and I'll watch that video. I will play that video for you all, and I will sit here with a bowl of popcorn, and I will watch them drag Trump out of the White House if that's what it takes to get him to leave past January 20th. So that said, I would kind of make a little fun party of it. I know that sounds horrible, but at this point, it's kind of what he deserves. If he doesn't want to leave, that said, we've seen talk of preemptive pardons. Now, yesterday, I did a story about Giuliani supposedly asking for a pardon, and I actually got something wrong. I want to correct that on the record, is that I wasn't aware of anybody giving themselves a preemptive pardon or being preemptively pardoned. Turns out I was wrong. Richard Nixon. Not a good parallel. So then again, the people who are, possibly could get preemptive pardons would be his children. Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. The interesting thing about them, along with Giuliani, is that they haven't been charged with any crimes. So also included would be Jared Kushner. And like I said, Giuliani. I couldn't imagine any one of them actually trying to or needing to bribe Donald Trump in order to get that pardon, though. So that doesn't track. That doesn't really track. But what we do know, apparently, from releases, again, it's according to the Associated Press, that the person appears to have a short last name and already is in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons. And so it's not any of them. It's not anybody that we can think of, that I can think of offhand. So I don't really know. This is very interesting. Now, a Justice Department official also spoke on the condition of anonymity and said that no government official was or is currently subject or target of the investigation disclosed in this filing. So that eliminates quite a few people, quite a few possibilities in the government of people that we know. Now, that said, Donald Trump responded to the news of this, and here's what he said. Fake news. Well, all right, that means it's definitely happening. Now, that doesn't mean also that Donald Trump is in trouble for any of this, but or is implicated as part of the scheme. As I mentioned before, the Department of Justice says that there's no government officials involved. So I am kind of curious. It does make you wonder why Donald Trump just had to say fake news about it if he didn't know. I don't know. Especially as I know there will be more pardons coming up because the president's starting to run out of time for his time in office. And so there will be more pardons. I am curious to see what happens in this investigation. If they do find like any evidence or whatever, and are able to actually start disclosing names, because I am super, super, super curious of who this individual might be, who attempted to allegedly buy his way out of jail. I'm thinking maybe could have been. I was thinking maybe Rod Blagojevich, possibly. We had talked about that before. At least that's the name that comes to mind. But again, I don't really know. We'll have to see. Very interesting. All right. Move on to the next story. By the way, Dango Mangle with the super chat here. Thank you, by the way. It's a pajama eviction party. Except I will not be, of course, wearing pajamas. But wouldn't know that. Never know. All right. Ah. Okay. Oh, you think it could be Brad Parscale? Oh no, that's Trump's ex campaign manager. I don't know. Okay, anyway. Let's move on. So President Donald Trump, we all know, has a notoriously thin skin. He can't handle people calling him, of course, bad things online. And so he is threatening to blow up a defense policy bill unless it destroys the internet as we know it. So now, what am I talking about? Well, apparently, he is wanting in the next NDAA bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, he would want a specific provision removed that would end protections for internet companies and shield them from being held liable for stuff that users post. So now this is Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act. And so now that protects, like I said, companies from being sued by anybody who happens to be triggered by something someone else has posted, whether or not their complaint is legitimate or not. So now we already have laws against, things like libel and slander. So it would appear that like this is just like extra like vindictive, right? Especially against places like Twitter that have been labeling his false tweets as false. Okay. Now, again, this whole thing is to go against Twitter to hold them accountable for example, if somebody like Nasty Woman 123 decides to post a comment saying that Donald Trump's face looks a lot like a flaccid penis, well, then basically Donald Trump could get all triggered and sue Twitter. Oh, great. And hold them accountable. And on Twitter, by the way, here's what he said about Section 230. Quote, a serious threat to our national security and election integrity. Again, there's no proof of. Therefore, if the very dangerous and unfair Section 230 is not completely terminated as part of the NDAA, I will be forced to unequivocally veto the bill. Oh, no, please. Don't. Please. Don't veto the bill. I would be very sad. Look, I guess for me, it's kind of a win-win, right? Because I actually agree with Section 230. I think it is an important thing for discourse, and I'll explain, of course, why. But I also don't like the NDAA because of some of the nasty things that have been put in it before. For example, in 2012, famously, there were a lot of unconstitutional provisions that were put inside the National Defense Authorization Act, which allowed the government to basically spy in on American citizens or steal people off the street if they were suspected of being terrorists or tied to terrorist organizations. That's American citizens. And so I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the military-industrial complex. So I'm like, oh, you wanna veto it? Okay, please do. Yay! Again, win-win, because then I can still say that Donald Trump, his face looks like a flaccid penis. Perfect. But look, like I said, it doesn't make any sense, to hold social media companies accountable for random stuff that users post. That's insane. That's ridiculous. Why is it Twitter's fault if somebody like Jackass 472 or, douchebag 420 says that my head looks like a penis? Oh, look, I don't care. Do I really want to sue Twitter over that? Is my skin that thin? To be like, I damn you, Twitter, for allowing this person to say I look like a dick. I don't give a shit. I don't care. You can say whatever you want online. Now, that said, these companies, they have their own terms of service, and sometimes those are enforced very unevenly, and I understand that. But these are private corporations, and they're allowed to have those specific terms of service, and they're allowed to do, some kind of moderation. And that's what they do. The thing is, the problem with eliminating 230 would be it would obliterate the internet and speech on the internet. Again, nobody would. Eventually, it would get to a point where nobody would be allowed to post anything. There would be comment sections. There would be, or at the very least, there would be very incredibly heavily handed moderation of these comment sections. So anything that could possibly offend anybody at any time would be immediately removed and sanitized. It would be horrible. It would be awful. And so, look, you wouldn't have Twitter as it exists now. You wouldn't have Facebook as it exists now. You wouldn't have YouTube. Basically, this would create the ultimate safe space cancel culture. It would be a nightmare. Nobody would be able to tell anybody anything online. It'd be horrible. Horrible. Again, and by the way, for Donald Trump, you don't think that if they did get rid of this provision, that Donald Trump's account would be immediately banned? He says offensive things about people multiple times a day. He would be the first to get Twitter sued. And by the way, as he would be suing Twitter. I don't think he realizes that. Maybe he's too stupid. But I don't know. And again, say goodbye to YouTube, say goodbye to Parler. The right-wing creators would go first because they're the most offensive online. But then there goes everyone else. It's all gone. Parler would immediately fold because Parler is basically all they do is spread, anti-Semitic hate and conspiracy theories all the time. They'd be the first to get sued from stuff that their users put online. It would be horrible, horrible for anybody online, though. And so the result would be chilling of political speech, right? And that's the major issue here, because then that runs afoul of the First Amendment. Being able to have political speech. We have politicians on Twitter right now. Donald Trump is literally still the president of the United States. We have a First Amendment right to go and be able to redress our grievances towards the government. Whether it be, saying, hey, I hate your tax plan, or I think you're a big fat smelly turd, it's still a redress of grievances, and you have the First Amendment right to be able to do that. That's why there are multiple cases that were ruled against Donald Trump when it comes to blocking and unblocking people on Twitter using the official POTUS account. And so, again, this would run afoul of free speech. Now, I thought Donald Trump wasn't supposed to be in favor of free speech and against cancel culture and against, things like that. Where's Dave Rubin? Dave Rubin, free speech warrior. Why are you not taking Donald Trump to task right now and saying, this is un-American, this is unconstitutional, this is against our freedom of speech? Oh, right, that's right, because Dave Rubin is basically a shill. Dave Rubin is a paid mouthpiece who has no original thoughts of his own. That's what Dave Rubin is. And a lot of these other Republicans are the same thing for not speaking out against this. I actually do believe in free speech. I actually do believe in discourse online, even if it can get, sometimes rather nasty. All you have to do is just look at my comment section. Even for this video, probably somebody's calling me a dickhead. I don't care, literally, because I don't want Twitter to get punished for people being able to say what they want to say online. And again, as long as it doesn't break TOS, well, I mean, that's YouTube's problem, right? Whether or not to figure out if they have broken TOS or not. And so, come on. You gotta let people be able to put comments online and not hold these companies accountable. Again, political opinions, going back to the First Amendment issue, can be offensive. Somebody's going to get offended by that. And social media, again, is where you can reach out to your congressman. Utter disaster. This would be an utter disaster. It would be the destruction of the internet as we know it. And it's all because of Donald Trump being a complete thin-skinned baby and not being able to handle people saying negative things about him. He wants less speech, unless it's in favor of him, of course. And it's just another example of Donald Trump's authoritarian tendencies coming out. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of comments here. Let's see. Yeah. Moderating some of my own comments over on Twitch here. So I see what y'all are posting. Yeah, and there's, again, Twitter does have a tendency to not evenly enforce that. But again, if I don't know if we should really get government involved unless it involves making them a public utility, which again, you would have freedom of speech. You would have First Amendment protections if they did that, because then it would be considered a government forum. So, all right. Anyway. One more story for you guys. But before I get into that, by the way, I just want to read dono here from Goku Just Saying, talking about Brad Parscale. Parscale was taken into custody at one point. I remember that. And now he's sucking up Trump on live TV like he's R. Kelly. You. Look, we'll see. I mean, I'll have to take a look at that. Brad Parscale, man. Is he in trouble, though? I mean, okay, yeah, I guess he kind of is. So maybe that's the guy. I don't know. Weird. All right. Billionaire Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is not a fan of making college free for American students, who are right now suffering under $1.7 trillion of student loan debt. And of course, tuition that has risen over 1,000% since the 1960s and 70s. And on Tuesday, she called to push for free college, which is being echoed by a lot of progressives, a quote unquote socialist takeover of higher education. Let's watch.
But politicians in Washington have thus far chosen to ignore our proposals, which they are entitled to do. They are not, however, entitled to ignore the implications of doing nothing, or worse, by doing everything. Policy should never entice students into greater debt, nor should they put taxpayer dollars at greater risk. There are too many politicians today who support policy that does both. Still more advance the truly insidious notion of government gift giving. We've heard shrill calls to cancel, to forgive, to make it all free. Any innocuous label out there can't obfuscate what it really is. Wrong. The campaign for free college is a matter of total government control. Make no mistake, it is a socialist takeover of higher education. Now, depending on your personal politics, some of you might not find that notion as scary as I do. But mark my words, none of you would like the way it will work.
Oh, I don't know about that. It actually would work pretty well. But scary socialism, the free college. Well, again, here's the thing. She definitely would not like the way that it would work because she would not make as much money. Remember, her family, the DeVos family, is heavily invested in student loan servicing companies. She has a direct incentive and interest in keeping things the way that they are so that she can collect that money. So, of course, she wants the status quo. And so that's why she hates free college. It means, again, she'll make less money going after individual loan holders. Plus, again, free college would actually save taxpayers money because the government would be able to set how much they're going to fund these colleges instead of allowing an individual, as we are now, to continue borrowing money for tuition that continues to rise unabated. Again, the other problem for her is that it also educates people. Betsy DeVos doesn't want poor people to get an education. Now, in that same thing, she talked about how, we got to make sure that people that people choose the right kind of education and not like those art degrees, which seem fun, but they're ultimately basically useless. Useless to whom? You know what? I'm actually kind of tired of the attitude of like liberal arts degrees. You know what? Because art is culture. Culture is important to America. If we give up our culture in favor of things like STEM, and again, STEM's important, but so is culture. We should allow people to do the things they love and that they're good at. Okay? Because we do need culture in this country, and I'm fucking tired of people being against that. And saying, oh, the underwater basket weaving, the painting, no, you can't do that. No, you must be a banker for you to be important. You must be a welder, which again, bankers and welders, super important. But so is art, so is culture, so are things like that. And so it frustrates me to no end. But here's the thing about DeVos. I really believe that she thinks that, no, it's only rich people that are entitled to culture. It's only the wealthy elites that are entitled to get a higher education that they can afford, and they can get the culture, right? And so this is a problem, okay? And look, less educated people, I'm not saying all of them, of course, but I would say on average, I think it's generally understood that people who are kind of less educated are a little bit easier to control. Why? And maybe won't question authority, or will believe things that aren't backed up by empirical evidence. Again, people who tend to go to school tend to learn or be able to foster those critical thinking skills. And they kind of teach you how to use those in college. Now, they should do more of that during high school, but they really don't. But they do tend to teach more critical thinking skills in colleges. That's why it's important. But not just that, but people who go to colleges tend to be more exposed to other points of view, other people. And so that whole, learning experience really helps to create a more well-rounded person. And I'm not saying that people who don't go to college can't become well-rounded people or are not, or that they're stupid or anything. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that generally, I would think that those college experiences are beneficial to a person's growth. And so they tend to help, right? And I'm also saying, that college educated people can be some of the dumbest people on the planet. But again, overall, it tends to be that the college experience is something that helps people expand their horizons. That's a good thing, and specialize in certain fields that they love, and to develop and further foster their critical thinking. And so I think that the college experience is beneficial to society in general. But like I said before, there's a lot of nuance in that, obviously. But the thing is, people like Betsy DeVos, they don't really deal very well with nuance. Republicans in general. But understand that what they want to do is just make it so that only the elites, the wealthy, can be able to go and get these educations. And so they don't want working people to have access to this. And that sucks. All right. And by the way, as a Dominionist, Betsy DeVos also does not want a secularly educated population as well. As I said, only the wealthy gets the good education. The rest of you get religious indoctrination. That's it. That's bad. All right. And so now DeVos also argued that free college would place an unfair burden on taxpayers and would require Americans who do not pursue college education to, quote, pay the bills for people who do. And also, she went after college counselors and saying that they would be rationing education. In fact, here's her on that.
You won't like being forced to tell students they aren't eligible to attend your school, or that they aren't allowed to choose the degree program they want, or that your quota for free college students is full and that they now have to pay full price. In this sense, you are no longer counselors, but rationers. You'll be forced to merely oversee rationing of state-approved higher education options. After all, government doesn't control anything only halfway. The first step was monopolizing student lending. $1.5 trillion later, can anyone say with a straight face that students are better off? That taxpayers are better off?
Oh, you mean like the way we have our healthcare system set up? Rationing? I mean, look, what we have right now is already rationing. What you have is a situation where people are unable to go to college because of the cost. Now, it was a little bit more difficult earlier before the government got involved. Now the government is involved, they're more likely to give out student loans, but that's only increased the price. And so with the price increase, a lot of people are looking at college like, oof, do I go to college and get an education, which I'm told it will help me in the workplace to be able to secure a higher paying job? Or do I cut myself off from that? And that's, I mean, the price point, since you do have to pay all that money back, is rationing. So it's the whole thing, right? And so now it also is funny that she talks about, here's what she said. If the politician proposing free college today get their way, just watch our colleges and universities begin to resemble a failing K through 12 school with the customer service of the DMV. It's really funny how she mentions failing schools. I live in Michigan, okay? And while our public schools have issues, we also have a lot of charter schools here, which are backed by the DeVos family. And those have been a massive failure. Now, again, as far as paying the bills, I get news for you. We all pay the bills already through K through 12 with our taxes. And also, that money from colleges is also taxpayer money. The thing about that is like, if we can reduce the cost of college by guaranteeing like an education, by properly funding these colleges like we used to, bringing down those tuitions, by not allowing regular people to go and have to beg, for loans and pay these outrageous prices, but actually have the government fund them directly, and say how much they're going to fund them. Well, then we actually do save money. And so, look, the other part about that, and there's a lot of stuff to this. There's a lot of different arguments as well. But as I said before, we pay through this we pay for this through taxes. We pay for K through 12 with our taxes. And it turns out that people who don't even have children also have to pay for that school. Oh no. Oh my God. Oh my God. Can you believe that? They don't actually benefit from that. Oh my God. Oh, and what if we do this for colleges? Oh my God. For people who don't get, no, look, it's an investment. That's what this is. This is an investment. The return on the investment for public schools and publicly funded universities and colleges is a community that is better educated, and that can go and create jobs because they don't have this albatross of student debt, and they can help their communities, they can build businesses, they can buy homes, they can buy cars, they can start families, they can do all of this additional stuff now that they don't have to service their insane student loan debts. So that's a net benefit for the economy. So this is an investment, just like K through 12 is an investment and always has been an investment. And look, countries that had, originally started K through 12 education, those countries got better. Their workforce got, better, smarter, wealthier. And so they went out and created jobs and created industry. And that's what we need to do in the future. And so, look, that's the issue, right? Is that Betsy DeVos is basically not wanting anyone to be able to make that investment, is not wanting the country to make this investment. And so that's the problem, okay? So it's easy for them to rail against these issues. But again, as I mentioned before, society is generally much better off when everybody's given the chance to have an education. Doesn't mean they're forced to. It just means that they've got the ability to get one and to use it for the betterment of their communities and for society in general. So now, DeVos gets a lot of pushback for this. Starting with the AOC. Here's what she said in response. Tuition-free public college is a dangerous socialist takeover of higher ed, as opposed to the far superior capitalist takeover of higher ed, which reliably buries millions of Americans in trillions of dollars in debt and graduates them into low-paying jobs without good health care. And she ends it with a thumbs up. Another one person says, she's invested heavily in companies who service these loans, Betsy DeVos has, and the debt collection agencies that go after people. Another person adds, Betsy DeVos owns a private education company, clear conflict of interest. DeVos supports the dominionist agenda of pushing prosperity theology, Christianity. Another right-wing dogma, school curriculum, free college would subvert. Another one person says, and basically they point out why free college is needed, as well as, of course, student loan cancellation. The average cost of attending a four-year college or university in the United States rose by 497% between 1985 to 86 and the 2017 to 18 academic years, more than twice the rate of inflation. And that's before the government got involved, by the way. And then it's increased over 1,000% since the 60s and 70s. Another person points out, oh yeah, let's not invest in ourselves. Better to continue to fund all these endless wars, which continue to ruin, to run this country down. Solid leadership right here. Indeed. Indeed. And then another person adds, more accurate to say the expansion of public education system to include higher education. These capitalists should all be all about expanding our education system so our country can continue to compete in the global marketplace. Yeah, that's another great point, because right now we're actually falling behind. We're losing to China. We're losing to Asian countries that do have better education systems than we do. Do you want to keep what? Do you want China to continue to eat our lunch? Do you want China to win? No, we should make college free and get as many people educated into these high-tech jobs as we can. They don't want that. Of course not. As one person says, quote, tax breaks, offshore shelters, roads, airports, infrastructure paid for everyone except them. Not socialism. Affordable education? Socialism. Got it. 100%. Let's make college free. Okay? And cancel student loan debt. Let's start over and start it right this time. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Become a patron or a channel member. Let's see. Is she even talking to anybody or just talking to the camera? She was just talking to the camera, as far as I can tell. No. Actually, you know what? This was an online conference. Yeah, it was an online conference hosted by the Education Department's Federal Student Aid Office. And it actually received a whopping 3,000 views. Yeah. And by the way, the comments and everything turned off. Gee, I wonder why. All right, so yeah. What a disaster. All right, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate you. You know I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See y'all later.
Tolerate.
Please clap.
I will eat your ass. Amazing.
I have not worked this conversation.
Thailand. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.